clock says 9 o'clock, so.
Go to work.
Start with pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to declare an open meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Move the second to declare open meeting, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Notification of the Open Meetings Act is right here. If you need your glasses to see it, it's a new one. Roll call. Myself, yes. Justin? Melissa?
Yep.
Chance?
Yep.
Katie?
Yep.
Wyatt?
Here.
Okay, number 6, approve the agenda. No changes, I don't hear.
No adjustments recommended.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
Second to approve the agenda, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Move on to the consent agenda. Starting with the minutes of the last couple months. Minutes look good, we can go to the financials.
First page of your financials, I put a fresh copy in your folder, the one in your packet. I hadn't updated your certificates of deposit with that extra $100,000 investment. So you have an accurate copy in your folder that shows all the fund balances. And I don't know in my years here if I've ever seen over $3 million in total assets, and we're over 4 this month. So we're in a great position for vehicle acquisition. Sometimes we budgeted for that, but we generally kind of put it off to make sure that something doesn't go haywire throughout the school year. Nothing's really gone haywire, so we're in a great position. So I'll be wanting to meet with Transportation Committee, which I believe is Caden, Tim, and Wyatt. We need to meet with Bob sometime coming up pretty soon to make a decision on bus, diesel, gas, short, long, activity vans, just what's the best route to go for that. And I did include a preliminary of your transportation report is in your folder for you to digest a little bit. That's essentially miles, just shows essentially our miles driven over the past year. So just some of those details. We'll have talk about more of that next month after we meet with Bob. But we're in a great position for to go ahead and purchase a vehicle or 2, and also maybe to make a $100,000 flex investment, which is on your action item.
We've got Katie, Wyatt, and Chance on transportation for 25.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, very good.
Questions on that? We can go on to look at the claims.
Starting to have quite a bit of our teacher purchase order requests for the next school year come in, so not automatically a larger amount of expense. We don't have ESU in here, so we would have been over 100,000. So your claims, whenever your claims are under 100,000, an explanation for that might generally be that we're a month behind on ESU, which happens almost a handful of times a year, it seems. But just starting to have a greater variety of teacher requests, which come in hundreds, bunches of hundreds of dollars for this and that and other thing, not necessarily thousands.
Questions there? Need a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second. Moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. That's carried. Anything, nothing for number 8?
No.
Okay. Number 9, public comment. Looks like we have anybody here today. So move to discussion items number 10, Unicamel update.
Okay, included a little bit of a thick packet in your folder, which is gonna have some of our policy updates, and we'll start to, we'll probably have 2 months of updates on policies that came as a result of the unicameral. So I just shared this with you. Our policy subscriber is NASB, so this is from Jim Luby. He always provides a good email with just a half a paragraph description of a particular policy, what's changed in it. We'll have a few new ones. Most of them are revisions, which is typical coming out of a unicameral. If there is a revision, you have redlined. I didn't copy it in red, but you've got some shaded areas and strike-throughs. So this is mainly for you to digest prior to next month. Most of these will be on next month's agenda, and you can approve them in batch rather than individually because they're mandated by law. And NCSA is still working on the post-unicameral report that they send to superintendents. Sometimes we get it by now. This was a long session, obviously. This was a 90-day session. So we're in the summer. Instead of doing this in April or May, we do it in June and July, which is fine. Nothing really came out of the legislature for us to be too concerned about, even with regard to finances. There's a cell phone restriction policy, right, that we've talked about a little bit. We're ahead of that already. Gives us a little more teeth to be, maybe a little more deliberate, a little more strict, a little higher expectation that we don't want to see them. And I think it's probably appropriate to have a report maybe from Mr. Schmidt and Mrs. Hodson, but primarily Mr. Schmidt. Well, how'd it go this year? This was the first year it was put them in your locker, and they stay there until the end of the day. From my perspective, I think our kids managed it really pretty well. Mr. Schmidt had the data on, okay, how many seizures did we have of cell phones, and then in-school suspensions because, strike 1 is this, strike 2 is this, strike 3 is this. Unicameral gives us a little more teeth to say, and it's not passing the buck, but a lot of schools will say, well, it's not our role, unicameral's making us do it, because it's not a very popular thing among kids, it is among parents. So that's in there. Parental rights, they want to know what's in your library, they want to be able to inspect resources. It didn't go so far as parents can opt their kids out of individual lessons or assessments per se, but we're still kind of digesting that a little bit. We'll put that out to our families, make sure that they're notified of what their rights are. None of them will be surprised to, I don't think, to say, well, it's about time we have access to what's going on in our public school. This is one of those deals where it was maybe a minor issue in one senator's districts that has a public school, probably an urban district. Not an issue in the rural area, but this is what happens, as you guys know. They don't make a law just for this district or this school district, this legislative district, or this community. It happens coast to coast. So kind of go through those over the course of the next month. I'll go through it a little more carefully as well, try to draw your attention to something. As soon as my NCSA report comes out, which is very good, very thorough, from Dr. Delaney and his group, you'll have that prior to our July meeting. And then we may be able to get it all done in July, which again won't be much, but it'll be upwards of a dozen or more policies, but again, they can be done in batch.
Okay, thanks for that update. Move on to 11 then, the facilities report.
Okay, we took a trip to Wayne and Laurel with the group. We had 14 of us, and Bob came from Omaha to meet us there. These are two of his schools that were on his list that, hey, in Northeast Nebraska, these would be good ones for you to visit. So he was with those folks from inception like he was with us, and so it was important for him to be there. I wasn't expecting him, so when I saw him standing on the curb with Dr. Lenahan, Superintendent Wayne, it just impresses me. Bob has impressed us, I think, since the beginning, and obviously has demonstrated that he is with us thoroughly, every step of the way. So it was good to have him there as well. So 14 folks, and Bob said, hey, you know what, we usually get 5, 6, or 7 when we do this. So he's just really impressed with our commitment, with your leadership, and with the initial reaction of our facility advisory group, if we can kind of call them that. So looking forward to our meeting on the 4th Monday of the month. It's not the last Monday of the month, but it is the 4th Monday, which is the 23rd. I hope that works for you. You can have it whenever you want, but that's kind of what we've been committed to have that group. Hopefully most of them will be able to attend. Hopefully most all of those that were able to go on the site tour will be present, and I think it'll be important to kind of have a sharing out a bit of from that experience. But then in your packet, for item number 15 for the pre-bond contract with Bob, he spelled out a little bit of the steps in the process, and in his email, we're kind of about to step 2. And I'll confirm with him, is that what we're gonna do on the 23rd of June, where he's gonna start to break that group up into little pods and have them have some small group discussion to really start to generate what have you seen, how do you feel at this point, what's starting to feel really important to you. So I anticipate that maybe that might be what happens on the 23rd, but.
Is that like a separate meeting, isn't it? Isn't that just with the committee where he does the small groups, or is that?
I think that's up to you, whether that's a noticed full board meeting, public meeting, or whether that's a committee meeting that's not open to the public. Not that it's transparent, but I don't know that it's a working meeting. It'd be a working meeting. So yes, I don't know that that's a full board.
Maybe ask him when other
Yes,
schools have done
for
it.
sure. That way you're aware on whether that needs to be on all your calendar. Again, we can have, the committee or up to 3 of you attend that. So I will find that out for you ASAP and push that information out to you. So I don't know if you have any comments of any conversations that are maybe starting to percolate maybe a little bit more on the process. I've had a couple of people say, that I've confirmed for them that we don't anticipate a November decision. I think that's kind of been clear that this is probably a springtime. I've floated, potentially a March, but again, that's going to be your call on whether you go at the primary in May. We've heard Bob talk a little bit about advantages, disadvantages, maybe to go in early. Talk to the county clerk, makes minimal difference on whether it's mail-in versus walk-in, okay? Because a special election would be mail-in, a primary or general May, November would be a walk-in. They see evidence both ways to determine voter turnout, because you want the highest voter turnout, obviously, that you can get in there. They kind of go, it's not definitive on what's the best way to get the highest percentage voter turnout.
Yeah, I haven't heard much. It was a good tour. I mean, definitely thorough. Nice to see what other schools are doing. Different ways, they come up with this or that, so I thought it was good.
I've got no questions on the November part of it, so as long as we keep getting that information out, I think that really helps.
I think if we consistently kind of dissuade the idea that yes, November's not going to happen. While possible, and that was kind of initially, a couple months ago, yes, it's possible. and now you realize that, you know, shoot, it takes a long time, it takes more than just 2 or 3 months to kind of really get some momentum going and really start to have a continuous push towards making decisions and laying out those steps and getting people notified. So yes, we're at 26 for sure. Decision.
Both those schools, I think, said it was, Laurel was a 3-year process, wasn't it? By the time they started talking about it, one bond didn't pass. By the time they actually broke ground, it was three and a half years.
Yeah.
It took them, I don't remember what lane it was.
They started in 21, 22.
I might be conflating the dates on that.
But I mean, we're in the middle of the process. I mean, we started
I would say we started
September.
last.
But I thought it was good. I heard a lot of people liking things, and I saw people, or I heard people seeing things that they didn't like, which is equally as important, you know. Yeah, I thought it was good. It was 2 very different projects.
Yeah, Wayne's was brand new construction and Laurel was a remodel, basically, and
Yeah.
some new construction as well.
Yeah, they had some construction. Laurel felt like a bit of a maze at
Yeah,
times.
it did.
But they had a bunch of those enclosed interior classrooms and stuff, but, yeah, it was good. There was a lot of cool ideas. Saw Mrs. Hodson bouncing around between rooms, getting ideas and stuff. Yeah. I thought the general sentiment was good. Guys were glad they went.
Yeah, it's neat to see what other schools have done. All right, well, you will find out about that
Yep,
meeting.
I'll let you know hopefully today.
Number 12, the ad hoc activities cooperative report. Had to look back and see when it was, a while ago.
We really don't have any good
It was the
report.
19th of May, we met with Osmond right after, that week after they voted, their meeting and our meeting. And yeah, I don't think there was a whole lot of, anything new coming out of that, was there, guys? I think back, I mean, it was just, they said things went pretty positive at their meeting. We kind of said the same thing.
Yep. There really hasn't been a whole lot of discussion, you know, since then. So, we probably need to get together, honestly. After
Their meeting,
tonight, after.
their meeting went
The
pretty well.
meeting
you
this
said.
evening. Yes, I think I
Last week.
shared out with you, or maybe just the committee. I attended their community meeting. They had published that in a letter that they sent to all patrons on about the 13th of May, right? That they were gonna have a full board meeting in their gym for folks to come. That was last Wednesday. I asked permission, to attend, and they were fine with that. So I just sat there in the corner by the Stelling family, good Plainview folks, who are in the Osmond district, and just was a listener. I nodded my head a time or two when there was a question of, from their board about this was already talked about, discussed in this part, and so their folks were very good, very positive. I understand there was a couple Wausau folks that were in the crowd, that didn't ask any questions, but they asked questions I would expect them to ask, right? Questions that we've asked. And so most of them are already private asked and answered, but they were just kind of reiterated. And a couple of times the answer was the administrative team and athletic directors will work on those details. We don't want a calendar with a schedule that says practice here on this day at this time, here on this day and this time. I mean, and it's not gonna be like, okay, where's practice tomorrow? We don't know. It's not gonna be that. But we also, are gonna leave some flexibility to coaches and athletic directors to establish that, because that's the daily piece of it that's a little more concerning to folks, maybe more so than where we're gonna play games, which was asked. And Osmond said everything, they never said anything in that meeting that they haven't already said to you, which is essentially Plainview's home base for this. And Nobody said, are we gonna be Pirates or Tigers? Nobody asked, are we gonna be Plainview, or are we gonna be Plainview-Osmond? Nobody asked that. So they they rightfully have more anxiety than we do, because they've been, and they said, we're searching for a place to be for our kids. We're searching for a place to be long-term. And on multiple occasions, they acknowledged you guys as you've made them feel better and more confident and more welcome than the experience they've had in the past. Now, once things going, that will probably generate some more emotions, all of which won't be pleasant, right? Because the natural experience of, my kid didn't get in the game as much as I wanted him to, or start, and he maybe and how come we've had 8 practices at Plainview and only 2 here? Those things will happen, and will be a source of, some level of frustration, and some people will get discouraged, and we'll try to manage that as an administrative team as best we can. Is this 50-50? You don't want to necessarily say that, because as soon as it looks like it's 51-49, somebody's gonna, the expenses are really not that big a deal. Haven't been mentioned by anybody's, high school will be different, but junior high is hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars, not a whole lot. It's not tens of thousands like high school will be, where more precise accounting and planning will have to be put into place. So there's a lot of things we can just kind of do as we go, rather than have a document that lays out precisely how we're gonna operate, which some people might think needs to happen, but I was really impressed with their concerns, their positivity, and not just the board or the administrative team, but the folks from Osmond that were there. And talked to Mr. Schmidt this morning. I mean, we've seen more than just a few Osmond students that are already participating in our youth basketball. So I mean, I think they're seeing the writing on the wall, so to speak. Hey, this was where we'll be. Let's go be with these kids, coaches, junior high kids, and maybe even elementary, or no, mostly junior high.
Okay. Well, I did notice anyway, for an action item tonight on their board agenda, that they have it to discuss considering take all necessary action to dissolve the cooperative agreement with Wausau Public Schools in its entirety, with both schools retaining their NSA obligations for football and wrestling through 25-26 school year.
Yeah.
So
They're making a minor amendment to the language that is on your action item, because they have that entanglement with Wausau. And Wausau, they've had a meeting with Wausau since their last board meeting. And Wausau is displeased. But superintendent there has made it clear, and he speaks on behalf of the board, if we have to, we will separate from Wausau unilaterally, which is essentially, okay, but Wausau might not pass a dissolution of their 4-year agreement. So I don't expect any legal entanglements, because boards can always reverse a previous board's decision. And you just, quite frankly, you can. And there's nothing that legally binds them to Wausau. And so they're prepared to say, well, we don't need your permission. They hope it doesn't come to that, right? Because they're still neighbors and friends, so to speak. But it could.
I think Mr. Bremer mentioned that. He said something about that they felt like Wausau had already kind of violated some of the things in the agreement, so they weren't concerned about it.
Yeah, they checked with their lawyers, actually, right? So they checked with their legal team, that they really think it's binding.
Right.
Agreement.
Are they at that point in the game where they need to dissolve that high school?
They are going to tonight, because their junior high was part of their 4-year agreement.
Oh, right.
So the NSAA, their high school
That's
is
separate.
still,
Right.
they're still together for one more year.
Yep.
And then they'll, but not 3 and 4, so they're gonna get out of the junior high agreement after year 1 of 4, and they're gonna get out of the high school football and wrestling agreement after year 2 of year 4. So, yeah, and they're only a little concerned that, okay, how are the Osmond High School kids gonna be accepted and embraced this fall playing football for Wausau when they're likely, I wanna be careful to not use that word because that decision's not been made yet, anything about high school. The writing on the wall though for Wausau is we won't have these kids for 26, 27. So what does it mean for them to be on this team for 25, 26? Now, if they can play and help them win, but that's, and also Wausau changed football coaches, and I don't want to sound like it, without consultation with Osmond, which irritated Osmond. We're a co-op, and you hired a new football coach without, I think I'm right in saying that, I think I was told that, and so does Wausau Osmond have a new high school football coach? I believe so.
Yep.
So that was probably just maybe a miscommunication from Wausau's part to think that we probably should have consulted with Osmond before we made that decision, and that's good for us to make sure that we're very deliberate in making decisions about programs this next year, junior high programs, coaches. We don't want to dictate things without always consulting with Osmond and hopefully there's never they want to do it this way, we want to do it this way issue. Hopefully that won't happen. And it generally doesn't if you start that conversation early before a decision is made, and but sometimes it's a cooperative also comes with compromise. Those two things have to happen. Somebody will keep track of the levels of compromise though. So, yeah.
Well, I would imagine we'd be having another meeting sometime soon. Right, you have at least one month, I think, guys, keep the conversation going a little bit. Touch base, see what else is kind of going on. But
Yeah, probably should keep doing that, so we're ready for,
Yeah.
this fall.
I will communicate with Mr. Bremer tomorrow morning for sure, and just after their meeting.
So as of now, our discussion is just junior high. Obviously, the potential for high school would be there if the junior high thing worked out. But as of now, we're just discussing junior high. If they dissolve that contract, does that mean that they are definitely not going in high school? Is that how they're seeing it?
I think so. So they, you know what, I better not say,
Okay.
Caden, but I understand what your point is. They
We're
want to
talking
dissolve the junior high.
They're dissolving it because of the junior high portion as of now.
Yes.
You still have to maintain the NSA in 2 years.
They do,
Yeah.
but their agreement
Regardless
was
of-
for 4 years, right? And
Right.
they're dissolving it because of the junior high portion right now, but I'm wondering if their assumption is that high school comes after that 2-year cycle.
No, I see what you're saying.
Cause that's all the NSAA cares about, is that 2-year co-op
Right.
cycle. They don't care
You're talking
about.
about the year after that.
Cause for their sake, that could leave them without a football team, if we didn't decide to go that way.
Right. I mean, we've talked that way, but.
I'm just trying to get an understanding where they're at.
Well, they could make a new agreement with Wausau, but that would make a lot of sense if the junior high's here.
Right.
But for somebody else,
And
they
if
could.
Wausau's wanting to agree to something when they just broke it.
Right, it could be unlikely.
Okay, that's fine.
So is that discussion we need to start having though? I mean, talking about 2 years,
2 minutes.
what the plan is?
Yeah, well, some of that decision needs to be made this fall.
Right, okay, there you go.
why it's
That's
saying.
what I'm saying, we
Okay,
need a
that's-
meeting.
Yeah.
Only continue.
We have
Because-
an October
So it's on
vote
your radar.
coming up. I mean, if for football, anyway, that's the deadline. Anyway, November 1 is the deadline.
Of
Class
this,
for the
of
next-
this year.
Yeah, the next
For
cycle,
next,
yeah,
yeah.
for us to determine whether or not we're gonna make next step, with a co-op with Osmond for football. And their two biggest concerns are football and basketball. Those are their two biggest needs. And, those two take priority, we're gonna have to make a decision on those really soon. And the reality is, at our last conversation with them, Mr. Polt wasn't there, he's their athletic director, but he had expressed concerns that by severing ties with Wausau for junior high football, just like you just said, anyway, and we don't pass a varsity football co-op with them, leaves them in a lurch. So we are making by passing a junior high co-op, we are taking one step anyway towards a possible football co-op. And we, if we don't do it, then we're leaving them in a tough spot. You could have potentially a senior class there that have been left without another football season. Whereas freshmen, they didn't have it, sophomore, junior years, they did have it with Wausau, but then senior year, they may not have it. So, it's a heavy vote, yeah, in October, not just for us, but for them too.
So that gives us a chance to see how things are going, we can keep meeting this summer, how junior high
Mhm.
talks are going, we're getting along.
Maybe we can hammer out some details, but give the athletic directors a chance to talk a little more, and we can kind of keep everybody up to date on how things are progressing. Okay?
Sound good?
Sounds good.
No policies this month. So we'll go on to our action items, starting at 14. We discuss and take possible action on approving a contract with Northland Group for the municipal advisor services, amount of $5,000.
Okay, Tobin, can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear us?
Yes, I was hoping your volume would come over my speaker up there, but no. I thought we're gonna try this, but. Just hang on 1 second, I'm gonna try to create a little more volume for you. Cause I know you wanna talk us through that contract you sent. Okay, Tobin, speak to me.
All right, can you hear me?
That's
Is that
much-
better?
That is much better. Okay, so, yeah, okay, Mr. Rasmussen, we're ready for that action item then. So you have in your, Tobin, I photocopied the entire contract for our board, so they have the whole thing, including the appendices. I'll be honest, I didn't read it cover to cover. But I don't know if you just want to maybe highlight for our board, here is what you will get for the services from Northland for, approval of this contract.
Yep. So you've got, appreciate the chance to zoom in this morning. You've got Jason Ruin and myself on here with Northland. I think we've had the chance to visit maybe with most of the board members in 2 different committees, and maybe not everybody, but I'll just do a couple minutes, just once again to highlight municipal advisor services. We're really talking about pre-bond services and then post-bond services, which are all in the contract. Also sent over to Dr. Earl kind of a document that outlines things even a little more detail and shows some of the products and things we use to help in the process. So hopefully you have access to that if you need it. In the advisory role, what we're really helping, we're really the third part of your team you're putting together with your architect and design team. Eventually, I know you're gonna have a construction team, and then you have us as kind of that financial member of the overall team. And all of us will be working together to help help you through this process of community engagement. Part of our role is to help put together timelines and tasks that our team and you as a district need to complete as we head toward potential calling of an election. So there's both formal and informal benchmarks you need to hit. We help do that, help put timelines together and things that we want to execute to have a successful process. A big part of what we do also is access the bond market, provide bond rates and financials. We've created some tools to help look at different projects you're considering, how to have discussions internally about those and tax impacts and different ways you can approach those, and then also how to engage the community, get them that information as you work through the process to identify the correct solution. So we're part of that team. We're making sure we're incorporating recent legislation like LD2 valuations and all those things to make sure that you have the right information financially, and so does the public. And doing some analysis on that. As we move into the formal stage of potentially the board actually calling an election and setting the date, we'll be a liaison between yourselves and your bond attorney to get that documentation, that resolution, make sure it's set up and ready for what you need for a certain meeting, and again, meet all those legal obligations and timelines to actually call an election. And then just a part of the overall planning and execution of the pre-bond meetings, strategies, informational process for yourselves and the public. And I guess that's really what the front-end engagement that you're considering in our contract at $5,000 covers. All that work, all our travel, all our attendance at meetings. Instead of piecing it out and doing mileage, things like that, we felt that boards have liked just a simple engagement fee. We'll be there when you need us. We'll help put together and prepare for you what you need when you need it. And that's the pre-bond part of things, and that's your consideration today is for that contract and that engagement. If there's an election and it's successful and it passes, then our role moves into assisting with the execution of sale of bonds. We do need to hire an underwriter to sell those bonds. We'll run a competitive process for you, and then represent you, the board, as your advisor through that entire process, trying to get you the best value on fees for a bond firm, the best execution on rates, and then even as far as helping invest those bond proceeds and get your returns on that, as well as looking at your overall budget and this potential bond project, and just being your advisor through that entire process. You would only then pay a fee to us that's outlined in the contract, depending on the bond size. If there are bonds to issue and when they're issued, we would get a portion of the bond issuance as well as the underwriter to sell those bonds, and so that's the other part of our fee structure. Depends on size of bond. I will tell you that fee structure that you would historically pay just for a bond underwriter, it should be right about the same, maybe even a little lower. It all depends. So you're not really, in my mind, in our historical data, paying more overall to have an advisor and a bond underwriter sell your bonds if we get to that point. That's a lot. I'll stop there. Just try to give a high level overview. The contract outlines those fee items, outlines our scope of work that I kind of hopefully highlighted for you. And I guess Jay and I would take questions from there. Hopefully that's gives you a good reminder or highlight of what we do as advisor.
Is there, Tobin, if we wanted a reference, I mean, what schools have you worked with recently that would advocate for your services?
Yeah, we can look at area schools, or we can kind of look at this year if you'd like. We have fortunately been a part of having some good success this year with school districts. Jay and I both. We've been a part of 6 school bond elections this calendar year that have all been successful. Most recently, those are Randolph that just passed here recently. Jay's worked with Weeping Water and Elkhorn Valley. I guess 2 of those schools are in your area. We've also worked with Ravenna, Pleasanton, and Fillmore Central. So, and I think you've got a document that lists all the schools we've worked with as MA, and I would encourage you to call anybody. I think schools have liked this relationship, kind of the model, advisory, kind of a relational model, I guess, to help boards through this process. So, would encourage you to call any of those people that we've worked with.
I can sure do that on your behalf. Just connect with those superintendents. I know most of them, personally, so I would expect, since their bond election was successful, that they would advocate for MA services, but.
How about the ones that were not successful, like Crofton?
Yeah, I could probably, we'd glad to give you a list of those as well. And so that's another part of our structure, is there certainly have been districts we've worked with. Humphrey is one that we've had 2 efforts with. They continue to include us as part of their team. We don't recharge an engagement fee. If there is, if you have to come back a second time, or God forbid a third time, I mean, we view this engagement fee up front as kind of coming onto the team, and we'll be with you as long as it takes, as many times as it takes. That's the goal we all enter into together. Yeah, certainly could give you a list of those folks too, that either we had to come back on a second effort or that we're still working with, because things were really tough last year to get some of these bonds passed, and would have no problem having you reach out to all those folks as well. I mean, we think we're an important part of the team, and sometimes the challenges are what they are, and we just continue to work together on it.
So you're saying that the engagement fee of $5,000 is good for, so if we do a bond next year that doesn't pass, we want to continue engaging you, so that'd be 26, we want to do it again in 27. Is this engagement fee good for the 27, or do we start over with a new contract at that time?
We have not charged anybody an engagement fee again from the first time. Like I said, we have viewed that as we've got a goal we're trying to accomplish together for the district, and that engagement fee on the front is intended to help cover some of our costs. And if we don't get there, we continue to work with you. If hopefully you still want us as part of the team, and we have not recharged an engagement fee.
So the term of the contract goes to the end of next year, so we would have to start a new contract then, correct?
Yeah, we would renew a contract just because of that language, yes. So at that time, if you, for some reason, did not want to continue with us, you wouldn't have to, but you could re-up the contract without an additional engagement fee.
And you'll be planning on being at these meetings with the facility committee and Bob from, going forward then, is that correct?
Yes, we would be at every and all meeting that you wanted us there for, need us there for, or before we bring value. Sometimes, even if we don't play a major role, we want to be at those meetings so we know what the conversations are and what the informational challenges are, or needs are, to make sure that we're all working together to craft a good informational message to the public, and check all those boxes for any concerns or information that needs to be out there to help people be educated and be an informed voter on the bond issue.
Okay, thanks.
And that's what that engagement fee is intended for. Just, it could be 10 or 15 meetings we'd be coming out and being a part of, but we don't put a cap on it or anything like that.
Then if the bond passed, then we'd be looking at that par amount, correct? You'd be looking at 0.7, 0.6, or 0.5% of the bond amount as the compensation.
I think, Tobin, am I correct, in previous conversation?
That's correct. I can give you a recent example. Fillmore Central, we're looking to get in the market. they passed a bond for about 48.8 million. We're looking to get in the market with about 20 million initially. And so our fee on that would be 0.5%. We ran a competitive process for underwriting firms. The firm that was selected is charging 0.3%, so that's 0.8% of par. I think if you ask myself or Jay, historically, maybe if you just had an underwriter, years ago, you probably would have paid 1.5% of your bond amount. I would say now it's 1%, maybe a little bit under that. So overall, the fee model, the fee structure is not really costing boards more to have an advisor and underwriter. I can't guarantee that in all instances, but through that competitive process for selecting the underwriter, it's kept those fee levels at or maybe slightly below what you might pay to just have an underwriter. Does that answer your question on kind of the issuance? You would not pay those ever unless you actually had bonds to issue.
So if we do a $20 million bond, 0.5%, that's a fee on right?
$100,000.
Okay, we have the $5,000. Is there, you mentioned is there additional then?
Yeah, underwriter.
Underwriter.
The underwriter.
Which was
Yeah.
0.3%, you said, on that last one.
Just sharing with what the last one was.
Yeah, okay. So that'd be, and then that'd be the end of it, right? Is that the?
I guess what I'm trying to tell you without trying to oversell it is you're probably gonna pay that level of fee, I anticipate, regardless when you issue bonds. So it's a matter of, do you want to split it between having an advisor and an underwriter, or just going the underwriter route?
Gotcha.
Okay.
Well, in the two meetings we've had with Tobin, I've been pretty impressed. Both him and Jay both, really good information. They know their stuff.
Be nice to have them on our side advocating.
For $5,000, guys, it's well worth
Yeah.
the money. It is.
Well, I just look at the information they're gonna provide to the rest of the committee.
Yeah.
Otherwise, because we're providing it or they're,
You know, if you haven't figured it out, they're a subsidiary of First National Bank of Omaha, so, they are fairly local, you know, so they're in state.
Okay.
All right, thank you, guys. Appreciate your time this morning. Hey,
Yeah, hope that was helpful.
we'll be in touch soon.
All right, we look forward to working with you if we get the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Okay, all right, thanks, have a good Monday.
Thanks, take care.
So Tobin and Jay have different roles? Are they both MAs, or how's that work?
Tobin actually has a bond underwriter license. Not Tobin, Jay does. I'm sorry, Jay does, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's just another different security. That he
They've
knows.
both been here in both meetings.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Northline Group to serve as our municipal advisor in the amount of $5,000.
I'll second.
Okay, and moved and seconded, to approve the contract with Northland Group to serve as a municipal advisor in the amount of $5,000. Discussion? We'll vote, myself, yes, Mike?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Chance? Melissa? Justin?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. We'll move that on to number 15, discuss and take possible action on the CWD pre-bond contract in the amount of $7,500. We've talked about this a couple times, that work that Bob's doing with our group.
Want to do it?
Yeah.
We're already this far in. Not sure how, we want to retain him. He's definitely a resource I don't want to give up.
What's the additional expense of doing a similar thing? Once it's approved, then there's additional expense?
I can't remember what.
Yeah, I don't know whether his fee then goes to the contractor.
There's a.
But this wouldn't, well, I don't know if this would be the last check we'd write to CWP. I don't think so, but.
I don't seem to remember it being
government percentage.
That was for the construction manager.
Construction manager was getting some.
So we had talked about him potentially, around percentage, at that 1% or something like that.
We had to come up with a number.
Yeah, and he was helping us, yeah, that's gonna be a competitive process again, you know, before you can actually put a number to that, but, again, Bob helped with all that, so, as far as what his fees will be afterwards, I'm not for certain, but I know this, I don't wanna give him up.
No, I
So,
agree.
yeah.
I guess what's the $7,500 do for us? Does that get us to a certain amount of time and then we have to
Yeah.
approach this again? Or
Yeah, so, you know, in your packet are two parts. One of them is the actual contract. Maybe more valuable than the contract would be, you know, the email that he sent, which kind of outlines timetable and what he has traditionally done in each of the meetings. So, you know, normally he kind of, you know, the step one was some site visits, you know, which we're not done. We just had the first one. But that kind of really starts to kickstart the ideas.
He's been kind of working on good faith so far, right? Like,
Yes, like showing up.
yeah.
Yeah, Wayne and Laurel, yeah.
From Omaha.
So I guess that's just the way, and I think we're all fully aware of that, just the way he operates. He immerses himself completely in the conversation, starting to understand and recognize personalities, the dynamics of the board. And then, of course, he knows our facilities really, really well at this point. So he's in a position to help guide some discussion, maybe give some advice about best solutions to what our committee recognizes. These are the biggest problems. These problems need solutions. Not everything will, maybe, but yeah. So we're probably already down the road a little bit into this contract.
Yeah,
We paid him the 10 for the facility audit.
right.
Correct.
The 75 would be for anything after that.
And it looks like, I mean, it says right here, the scope of the work for that $7,500.
which find that out?
That email does.
It's in our
Is it
packet,
email
number
itself?
15.
It's an email of Dr. Arnold.
Yeah, for that one. Okay.
It's in there.
That spells it out pretty good, process.
Okay. Okay.
It's just got some covering expenses type of stuff in there too, mileage.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the contract with CWB to serve as a pre-bond advisor in the amount of $7,500.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to approve the contract with CWB to serve as pre-board advisor in the amount of $7,500. Discussion? Vote, myself, yes. Justin?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Chance?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay, motion passed, 6-0. We'll move on to number 16, discuss and take possible action on the purchase of a video board for the football field track complex for $7,500.
Mr. Schmidt's been working on some, you know, installation details, and probably a thought or a decision is, well, do we want to? We can go a couple different directions on installation, and it could be for just this board, or it could be in preparation for new scoreboard 5-10 years down the road or more. So would we want a structure that could hold both of those versus something that just now temporarily, not temporarily, but something just for the video board? I know, I should just let Mr. Schmidt talk. He's, you know, looking at, you know, some potential, some advertising, some donations of maybe time, expertise, or materials, steel versus wood frame, you know, structure, running conduit. He's talked to Grant, so about the fiber. Maybe that just,
No?
because we've obviously talked about this over the course of the past several weeks, so so things are kind of in motion, but it just, yeah, there could be some expense if you want a frame. not unlike what you see in your packet, which Central City had, which was to hold a bigger scoreboard and this video board, along with some marketing and some advertising, or just something simple enough but would do the job to display this just above the existing scoreboard.
Is there significant cost in running fiber? Do you have any idea, give you any idea how much that might be?
Blake said he'd run the fiber for $1,000.
The frame would be probably, and that, we were talking about maybe donating, getting some of that donated possibly.
The company I talked to, Northeast Machine, is who I've been working with. He hasn't got back to me about advertising or anything like that, and being able to discount it or whatnot, so I haven't heard back from John yet.
So that could be whether it's advertising on the video board or possibly, and you've seen this, you know, maybe a 2 foot by 2 foot advertising vinyl or steel placard that sometimes, you know, schools put around their board or at the bottom of their board, what have you. So it's not something that, to my knowledge, we've ever had down there. Obviously, we don't now, but that could obviously, you know, be done in a handful of phone calls and maybe some yays, maybe some nays. You know, $500 a year to hang a display of your business, particularly maybe the steel business that would be, you know, potentially providing that structure.
Did we find out the life of our, or how old is our current scoreboard? Did we find that out?
We think it's going on 20, and usually it's always more than what you think, but we didn't find an invoice that identifies it. I think we talked to a couple of folks, did Jamie say it was there when he was in high school, Jamie Alexander, which would be 20 years.
I thought it was there when we played.
You're younger than Jamie.
I know, but I'm just trying to remember. I thought
Yeah.
I thought we said that last week, our last meeting, and they said it was newer than that.
I thought Corey Frederick, when he's the athletic director, replaced it, had it replaced. Went down and picked it up actually, but maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
I don't think we
life
have
expectancy on
Yeah.
those, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it hasn't given us any performance issues. It hasn't, to any degree, made us think we better start planning on replacement of this. You know, a new to replace that, it would kind of just about be a swap out. Scoreboards like that simple Daktronic one with wires and bulbs haven't changed at all. So, you know, you could replace that with something essentially the same. Schools are generally going to video, whether it's digital video or whether it's, you know, like ScoreVision. That's starting to become a little more common. If somebody's doing something new, what does Sunderland have?
They have Daktronics.
Just a
regular scoreboard.
a regular scoreboard like ours. So sometimes school districts are throwing those into, you know, their budget, or if it's a bond issue, you know, for facilities. That's seems to be the trend. But we haven't had any conversation about, are we about due to replace our football scoreboard? Seems to get the job done. This would just be elevating the experience and the performance of what we have that's existing.
So since our last meeting, have you guys contacted Daktronics and learned more about this board? Confirm its age or maintenance or anything? And then with advertising is great, donations are great, but without that, what's it gonna cost us to install this thing? If we don't get any, because that's donations and, you know, free time, that's out of our control.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, what's in our control, what are we looking at for installation?
I think it's fair to say that we've got well, depending upon if you want simple installation or projected, you know, not counting any potential, okay, if we're gonna get advertising dollars, which is what trickles in or comes in on an annual basis. I mean, I think we could be looking at 5 figures. You know, is that fair to say, Kyle? I mean, if we have to write the check for a steel frame and installation, I know that's not very precise for you, but we, you know, as Kyle said,
Everything down
we
there
haven't-
right now
haven't
is
done
made out of
that.
wood, so at some point it's gonna have to be replaced, so in the talks that I've done and the work that I've tried to figure out is going with a steel structure with concrete that would be there and would support every scoreboard for my eternity of being here, so versus the system that's down there now is gonna have to be replaced, because at some point wood just doesn't last that long. So it's a matter of, do you wanna use the structure that's down there now and we can make it work, which is fine, or do we put something in place that'll last for the entirety of this scoreboard, the next one, and probably the one after that? So,
So this deal would be about 10 grand?
somewhere in that area, might be a little north of that.
Because
So-
I guess my conversation, they were saying 20 to 30, so I guess we do the wood side.
Yeah,
There's
I
how far
wonder.
to go with it.
Yeah, I did think about that after the meeting, Justin. I wonder if that was, if they installed it too, so their labor.
I'm assuming so, yeah.
Yeah, which is, I don't know, maybe 50% of the expense,
Mhm.
you know, is their labor.
15.
Usually, you know, this is gonna be done by local folks, and quite oftentimes, folks that just kind of come and help support and, you know, make it happen. It's not generally a contracted. But again, we haven't lined all that up definitively. Here's who we got, here's when it would happen, here's what it's gonna be. You know, beyond, you know, talking to Nikon for the fiber. Obviously, we'll have some expense in conduit. That'll go into the concrete that's coming here in the next couple of months.
Doesn't take any additional power to run this board. None of that has to be rewired or trenched over anything different.
You got a transformer.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna confirm that, you know, whatever this is gonna drag, that it can be handled there. Yeah.
If they have to upgrade the loop that's on REA's cost
Yeah.
anyway, it wouldn't be our cost anyway, so long as it's in place.
Yeah, and then, that may have already been done.
Yeah, it might, what path are you taking for fire? Is that gonna go right down Lincoln Street then basically? Where are you going?
Cause that depends, we'd either go on the outside of the fence and around to
Right.
where it is, or you'd have to bore under the track and go out and then bore under the track again, so.
That's
in a
what I mean.
perfect world,
If
do
we're
it
gonna-
before they pave, so we can go along the outside of the fence and get it done.
Don't do it now before they pave Lincoln Street.
Yeah.
Boring that in underneath all the concrete, will tens of thousands of dollars.
I believe all the new boards are wireless too, so as soon as we go to the new board, I believe a lot of it's wireless.
Can you with video anyway have enough throughput anyway to do
Well,
that?
I imagine there's options, right? I heard a lot of it.
For high
I'll
res-
speculate on the lot part, but they do make the wireless.
For high res video, anyway, I don't know if that's gonna be enough.
That makes sense, that makes sense.
You know, that'd be tough.
If you're talking about like live action play, yeah.
We're talking like.
Always get that latency, don't
It'd be tough,
Yeah.
you know,
No, you're not
it'd
wrong.
be grainy, you know, there'd be some buffering, so.
I think we're gonna want that conduit there.
Yeah.
And then, which will be able to handle any kind of wire.
Yeah, if we have a big enough one, and you got room to pull a couple extra.
Yeah.
if you need to.
And your scoreboard's probably always gonna be on the
Just
west.
to have extra.
Yep.
I mean, we're asking for 7,500 for this board. I mean, ultimately, I think the amendment, or I think it needs to be updated to 25,000. I mean, because we're gonna approve, if we approve a board for 7,500, we're gonna be right back here again, asking for more money, potentially. Now, if we're under it, great. But we're looking at, because of this board, we're looking at a $25,000 allocation. I guess something I'd say keep in mind is we just had a survey from our stakeholders, asking them what was most important in our school. Athletics was number 4. It was the least important item they had when it came to expense. And now we're asking for $25,000 to go more on the athletics side.
turned into a little bit more than 7,500. That's a great deal on the board, you know, I guess I wasn't expecting it installed, maybe be quite that much.
And again, I think that's if you think a steel structure for decades and decades to come, and for whatever, you know, a future board might say we need to hang on there. But I would.
Well, if that current scoreboard's 20 years old with the wood frame, that thing's it's gotta be getting close to being replaced. So there's gonna be some overlap, we're gonna have that cost anyway at some point.
Could have that, this board is, I guess we haven't confirmed it, 12, 15,
Yeah.
10 years old.
So whatever.
So this will get replaced.
The 17.5 that you're estimating anyway for potential, you know, installation costs anyway, that is gonna shore up the current, you know, frame there. We'll probably have that expense sometime down the road, either way. I haven't looked at the backside of that scoreboard in a long time. If it is 20 years old, treated lumber, it's gotta be getting pretty close to the end of its lifetime. So I would imagine that it's not money wasted, right?
Not wasted, it's money we could plan on.
You're right, it's not planned on, but we do have room in the current budget year anyway for that expense, correct?
Well, sure, yeah, we budgeted $250,000 for subsidizing, and maybe unanticipated expenses, but, so I think, you know, the conversation obviously would need to continue a little bit on, well, okay, what do we want to prepare for the future, but right now, you know, the only thing we can have on your action item is for 7,500.
Correct.
Regardless, we still have that expense going out. And whether we can justify it because we have a 20-year-old board that we want to shore up for future, or likewise, we still have that expense potentially going out.
And a few of us were a little disappointed that, you know, that was set in motion before we got formal approval.
Yep.
That, I don't wanna have that happen again.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that voted on first before we go down and get a scoreboard and have it here. Now we're kinda stuck.
Yeah,
We have
and
to.
yes, I put you in this position, or we wouldn't even, you know, it would have been gone.
Right.
We didn't
You had
have the
probably
luxury of trying to take a straw poll or wait for a meeting, so, yeah, I recognize that.
And on that note, sometimes our greatest strength is our greatest weakness. You're very good at taking action, but in this, you know, like when I asked you, what's your contingency plan? Like, well, I got it because it's a good deal and it's going to work really well with the track system that we got. You know, there's a lot of benefits to having this. There is the unforeseen expense. We are also in very good financial standing right now. So, I mean, I'm very thankful that you do take action when you do. We're putting $100,000 into the flex CD today. So, I mean, we have a momentum going and we have to keep going. I agree with you 100%. We can't be put in this situation again, but we have the momentum going. We need to keep it going for the benefit of what we have in the long term.
So, the old scoreboard continues momentum.
Yeah, I mean, this new scoreboard, fixing this up and getting this look nice, it's not just about 4 football games and a handful of junior high games. This is gonna be used for the track. And when we just approved that track timer, we said host. Bring that business to this town, make it look good. If we're talking about putting up a new addition here, we're talking about this bond issue, keep bringing people here, keep showing them what we've got.
I understand. Their stakeholders just told us that athletics
Yes, I
is
don't
this.
disagree with you
They
at
didn't
all.
say it wasn't important.
No, they didn't, but it was the bottom, it was the last thing on their to-do list.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say
I mean, they
is,
couldn't go any lower than the last.
Well, we're not cutting something with academics out so that we can pay for that, so I think.
It's 20,000, we're just approving books for 30,000, we're trying to do grants for other textbooks and stuff, why are we just buying that? Why are we doing fundraisers for stuff, for our kids? Why are we, I mean, it's $30,000, $30,000 is gone, and can't be spent elsewhere. Even on a remodel or upgrade. I mean, I would much rather we have this conversation and we go, we're talking about a 20-year-old scoreboard, we're saying, hey, we're gonna have to replace that eventually, we're we're buying this board and we're doing this, I would much rather have a conversation, let's just get a new board.
Let's just spend 50,000 and be done.
Be done with it, and have it all brand new. And we know it works, and we know it works with this track equipment. My conversation with Daktronics, it's an ad hoc workaround to get the track equipment to work on that, and it's just simply text-based. It's just a text loop on that screen. It's not some grandiose deal. It doesn't do live video. Talk about live video, it doesn't do any of that. Anything you want on that board has to be preloaded on that board in advance. So during a football game, what's the most you're gonna get? Touchdown, it's gonna say text across it. We don't know those though. I mean, that's just from my conversations, and I've never seen the board. You know, I can't confirm serial number or anything on it. I just wanna be mindful that we are gonna spend potentially $22,000 on this, or more, or less. But just know that we have that expenditure.
So, from what you're saying, you'd rather see, we just go get a new one right away, right?
I would like to have that conversation.
Like, okay, so if we spent $7,500 on this board, I mean, that's done, that's here, you know.
It's not done.
But the board is here, we can't take it back, is what I'm getting at.
It's not our fault. So see,
It's not
that's
Central-
that was
it's
the
not
point.
Central City's
That was the
problem.
point on getting the board here early, so now you feel you have that obligation that you have to buy.
Right.
If that's the case, then we just will approve buying it.
Right, we discussed that, we're in that situation, but if we wanted to discuss going out and getting a new board someday, that'd be nice, that'd be great. They're talking about building a structure, you know, that would potentially support that, so that's that $15,000, $25,000, $30,000, whatever. Say someday we do go out and we wanna get a new board, what we're really out is $7,500 at the end of the day. If we want to discuss going out and getting a new board someday, we have a scoreboard down there, we spend the money, we have a structure for the new board someday, we're out $7,500. For however long this thing lasts us, that's great. And if we wanna discuss getting a new board, we've got the structure for it. That's where I'm at,
Well, I think some of what he just said was lost on me then, because he's saying this board showed up, now our hands forced at purchasing it.
I get
That's
that.
not Central City's problem, but we shouldn't have been in that position.
I'm not disagreeing one bit, but the reality is that this is where we're at. I don't disagree at all that we're forced into this position, but this is the position that we're at. We have a board sitting here, we need to approve whether or not we're gonna pay for it. If we're not, we gotta figure out where it's gonna go next, cause it's not back to Central City. And at the same point, if he had waited for a board meeting, we would have nothing to discuss, because it would have been gone. So it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't there.
I think like I said last month, or last meeting, that, you know, maybe the life of these two things are gonna kind of come to the end at
That's
the
what I
same
think,
time
yeah.
anyway. So we
That's
buy
what I
this,
would agree
get
with.
by, have the structure in.
That's what I think. I think it might line up well.
Down the road.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Because the new board's, what'd you say, 100?
Well, we don't know, it
100,000?
depends on what you, depends on, if
Seven-
you go $100,000, that's the, you know, that's the cream, that's the rent video. Get something identical to this, and you're looking at that 30,
Yeah, I guess.
40, 50,000, depending on size.
Probably wanna go with something newer.
Well, it all depends on what you're trying to do.
And where you say that the stakeholders just said that the athletics is at the bottom of that priority list, can we at some point earmark money to replace those signs? Put them in an account or put them in a CD or whatever and say this is just for future boards to replace that entity?
Earmark money for scoreboard down the road.
Right.
Put money in depreciation, that would be that's a primary reason for the depreciation fund. So it's a bit of a savings account, put $100,000 in every year for your general fund. But generally earmarked for the purchase of depreciable items. This would be one. Vehicles, transportation is a typical area that depreciation can be used. So the answer to the question, Melissa, is yes, you absolutely could do that. But
So
it
that
would
the
be a future
stakeholders-
board to make the final decision on that. You put them in a better position, but they can always decide yay or nay, or shift what your intent was a year or two or 10 ago to plan for something. But it's always wise to try to put some monies back for those depreciable items.
Because if it is not on the top of the priority list, then they shouldn't have to eat that expense all at once. It's the same way with the bus. I mean, at some point, that charter bus will have to be replaced. So we're not gonna be able to ask the taxpayers at that time to just replace it. Start planning ahead for the future.
I know, he makes a pretty good list on building and grounds, you know, or things that are coming down in the future, so I'm sure that'll probably be an item that's on there that we're looking at on the long-term list. Yeah, when you look at that structure already being there, that helps, you know, we've already paid, so when we do go to something new, it's already, it's a lot to stomach, but it's gonna help, so.
Well, and
Replace
in
it,
that
it's already
planning
there.
and saving that money, if that fiber optic and all of that isn't done before the street's done, it'll be more of a cost later on when something has to be done. And just because we have it doesn't mean it has to be installed this fall. If we have too many other expenses and we can't afford the steel, I don't know, it can always wait, it can stay in storage. Our hand is forced to buy it for $7,500.
They don't have storage for it though.
Where is it at?
I think it's an egg is in the egg building.
It's in the red shed,
Red shed.
north of it, yeah. It's secured up against the wall.
Well, we have a motion.
I'll make a
Purchase
mo-
it for-
yeah. I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the used video board for the football field track complex in the amount of $7,500.
Second.
Moved and seconded to, purchase the video board for the football field track complex for $7,500. Discussion. Not, we'll vote, myself, yes, Wyatt,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
Chance,
Yeah.
listen,
Yes.
Justin.
No.
Okay, motion carried 5-0. 17, discuss and take possible action on the purchase of science curriculum resources in the amount of $27,140.86.
We had some
Talked about this last time.
good discussion on this last time. We included Kyle and Jen's, well, our district's curriculum long-range plan, which is, it's not, completely secure that this is the cycle we follow, but generally, to make sure that we have recent resources. If there's a significant rewrite of state standards, we could potentially make some adjustment to the cycle on when we look at new resources, so. Again, Kyle and Jen can speak a little more precise to this, but any new resource adoption comes with an expense of about this. Our wonders a few years ago was quite a bit more than this even, I think, our language arts resources, but this is where we're at. It's time for some science.
Yeah, I don't think we have any debate on this, do we?
No.
So.
This included, materials and everything, didn't it?
Yeah, materials, lab work,
Yeah.
reproducibles, all that stuff for 6 years, so.
I'll make a mo-
Taught all my kids, and if that's what she wants, I think. Sounds great.
All right.
She will be very happy.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase, for the 6th through 9th grade science resources in the amount of $27,140.86.
I'll second.
9 through 12.
Was
Yeah,
that?
but
Six
it's
through
6
nine.
through 9
It should be
above,
Six
and
through
9
nine.
through, that's
Okay.
what screwed me up.
Yeah, I saw it.
Right.
Good catch.
Okay,
I'll second that.
moved and seconded to approve the purchase of grade 6 through 12 science curriculum resources in the amount of $27,140.86.
Is this through 12?
6 through 12?
6 through 9.
Nine.
Oh, 6 through 9.
Yeah.
All right, let me read that one more time. Moved and seconded to approve the purchase of grades 6 through 9 science curriculum resources in the amount of $27,140.86. Melissa?
Yes.
Justin?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Wyatt?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
Chance?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. 18, discuss take possible action setting substitute teacher salary for 25-26.
Okay, well, it's good to just kind of keep pace a little bit. If administrators, teachers, paras, classified, I'll get a certain percentage. Our substitute teachers are pretty doggone valuable. They deserve a raise as well. 90% of our substitute teacher list is the same year over year over year over year. So we're talking about our local people that
What is it? I didn't.
answer the phone for us. It's currently 135.
Okay.
Asking to go up 5, and this is very comparable with regional schools.
I was gonna say, we don't struggle to find subs, do we?
It depends on the day. We're pretty fortunate, Kyle and Jen can speak more to it on, okay, we had to go to about phone call number 6, 7, or 8. Spring is hard, because we've got, if we have a track meet, there's 4 teachers right there generally, whether it's junior high or high school. Sometimes there's just a perfect storm. So it's rare where we don't find somebody we've got to cover in-house. You hate to do that. That's really, it irritates teachers when they have to cover in-house, but they always do. Never complain, but I know that they're giving up playing time or something else. But they do that for one another when they have to. It's rare. And they're compensated for it. Teachers are compensated for it when they cover for colleagues as well.
I'll make a motion to approve a raise of $5 a day for substitute teachers for 25-26 school year.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded to approve a $5 a day raise for substitute teachers for 25-26 school year. Myself, yes. Wyatt?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
Chance?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Justin?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried 6-0. Number 19, discuss and take possible action setting nutrition prices for 25-26.
Yeah, most every school district since COVID is starting to make some bumps. We bumped last year a dime. We had stayed the same for 3 years in a row. We just don't have the subsidies that we had. So we're kind of rebounding back to where it's now more of an issue to pay your bills in your nutrition program. So just to kind of keep pace a little bit, 5 is as low as you can go, really. I mean, you can go more if you want, but I just recommend 5 cents across the board minus milk and juice and an additional entree, just breakfast and lunch, nickel across the board.
I seem to remember last year, we went up a dime because typically we're about $40,000 deficit. Is that right, Kelly? It's still
Yes.
kind of the same story?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not gonna see the funding we did during COVID where we had,
Yeah.
Well, a dime, a nickel or a dime doesn't make that much of a difference, because wasn't it, a nickel was 1,000 and a dime was 2,000, right?
About 50% of our folks are on free or reduced, so we get federal subsidies for those anyway. But of course, our friends at NDE will get involved in advising us on what our lunch prices are if we're having to subsidize to too high a level.
On the federally subsidized lunches, do you know what rate they pay at?
I'd have to look it up. It comes through a tool that
Is
they
it
got.
close, do you know if it's close to our number, or it's probably less?
Yes.
Less?
Yeah, it's less than what our actual expense is. And of course, our payroll in the kitchen has gone up. The trajectory of that has gone up, as have the expenses for payroll for anybody classified or certified.
Do you think it should go up more than 5 cents, or?
Well, it's for your debate, I guess.
So what's the effect if it goes up? Say we do, say it is 10 cents, what's the cause and effect of that?
Well, I don't know that most people would know the difference, quite honestly. I think most families' expenses come through à la carte. So if they're like, shouldn't we just pay, you know, we just wrote a check and now we're getting a low notice text. Gosh, these prices are, and most parents don't know, we do limit kids to 2. We used to didn't limit them to 2, and they'd go through and they'd grab 5 à la carte items. And parents have no, you know, we don't get permission from parents, although we do have lots of them that say, shut my kids à la carte off. You know, and a kid will come through with à la carte, and we have to kind of gently say, you gotta put that back. You gotta have a conversation with your parents, you're not authorized to get 4 bags of Doritos. So, Justin, I would just speculate that folks won't know a nickel. They probably won't know a dime either. Because that's gonna be 50 cents a week.
Where is Pillen's conversation going with the farm to table?
That's
Is it
not, it's not
moving?
risen, his focus is property tax relief.
Yes.
And he's not letting a whole lot of other conversation get in there. Now that he got his stand with Women Act in, which was significant for him. But otherwise, his general focus of his entire, I believe, of his entire 4 years, and now once another 4 years, is when he leaves, if there's one signature item, it's gonna be property tax relief.
Which is gonna be in consolidation, that's what I think. If you listen to his town halls, yeah, it's gonna be forced, or somewhat forced, I think.
It's more of a sales tax change, from what I understand
It's
of
the
it.
yeah.
I mean, in the large
People say
cities, there's
tax.
a lot of people who don't own their homes and are not real estate owners. So from what I've understood, it's with the property tax relief, it'll be redistributed through the sales tax. I guess I haven't listened to those particular ones, I need to. But when Justin and I were down in Omaha last fall, we both went to separate courses on the farm to table. So I mean, obviously it's on the NASB's radar. What are the long-term solutions for assisting with those lunch programs? Or, you know, they had the subsidies during 2020. Is there any discussion of any kind?
It's purely a local decision on whether you've got, whether it's really even an option for you based on the economics and the ag economics of your district. And then a lot of it comes down to, do we have the capacity for fridge and freezer storage? You know, gosh, can we put a couple of beef? Where would we keep it? You know, processing. So you gotta have a lot of pieces that all of it works. So it's not as, and nothing is or necessarily needs to be easy. But there's quite a process. I talked to my friend out at Westholt. They've got a beef to table program that is just kind of like, yeah, we get it, we like it, but it's just the logistics of it. It's
Sure.
just, so you have to have somebody that just continues to maintain it a priority. But it's, you know, it sounds good for sure, but there's a whole lot more to it, and including expense. I mean, it doesn't save district any money by any means.
So even if we go up to 5 cents, we go 10 cents, I mean, does it make a big difference? You know, you mentioned we're in good financial standing already. You know,
Well, 5 cents is about $1,000
Yeah,
more.
so I mean-
Yeah, the NDE would prefer to see us go up a dime. I would, we haven't talked to us in a while, to my knowledge, Kelly, but just in just about every conversation we've ever had with them, they really do want you to speed that up. Now, they know that, you know, the feds are gonna subsidize a whole lot of your expense anyway, so we don't ever hear from the feds on it, but quite honestly, NDU, I would expect would prefer you to go a dime, but.
Is the idea eventually that that program's self-sufficient through government funds, through federal funds and your local?
I've never
Or
heard
you
that.
always anticipate it's gonna run at a deficit?
Yes,
Okay.
it will always run at a deficit, I would anticipate.
You have the ability to set your prices when general fund helps subsidize it. If we don't and we have a negative balance or we have a zero balance, then we have to use their PSE tool to tell us what we have to charge. But this gives us the flexibility.
Well, and LeVay tries very hard to limit waste.
Oh, yeah.
She has a tote in the back for kids to put their granola boards
Yeah,
and things.
that shared,
The share cart.
share
Yeah,
card.
no fault of effort, that's for sure.
Yeah. I would propose 10 cents.
We're dying.
With food prices going the way they are.
Yeah, we're dying.
I'll make a motion to approve an increase of 10 cents for breakfast and lunch for all students, adults for the 25-26 school year.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to approve an increase of 10 cents for breakfast, lunch, all students and adults for 25-26 school year. Vote, Chance?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Justin?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Wyatt?
Yes.
Kaden?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried 6-0. Number 20, discuss and take possible action adopting policy 90205, CM at risk construction alternative, waive second reading. We get this language from
Yep,
Perry?
got it from, NASB, who gets it from lawyers, who gets it from the unicameral, so just the necessary policy you have to have in place before we can move forward.
I'm ready then. I'll make a motion to approve policy 90205, construction manager at risk, construction alternative on first reading and waive the second reading.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to approve policy 90205, construction manager at risk, construction alternative, on first reading and waive the second reading. I'll vote. Justin?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Chance?
Yes.
Kaden?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion carried 6-0. And 21, discuss take possible action on our second reading for the full junior high sports co-op with Osmond beginning with the 25-26 school year with expenses beyond coaches' salaries and revenue to be shared as equally as possible. I already talked about this too.
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading for all for a full junior high sports co-op, Osmond Community School for the 25-26 school year, with revenue and expenses beyond coaches' salaries to be split as evenly as possible.
Second that.
Moved and seconded to, for second reading for full junior high sports co-op with Osmond Community School for 25-26 school year with revenue and expenses beyond coaches' salaries to be split as evenly as possible. Myself, yes. Wyatt?
Yes.
Kaden?
Yes.
Chance?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Justin?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried 6-0. Where we at? 22, discuss and take possible action approving $6,235.51 to cover our share of planned telecommunications cable.
Tom brought this to me, you've got the information in your packet, I mean, this is actually gonna be spread out over time, but I thought, well, it's an expense over $5,000. Even though you won't see, we won't see an expense in that precise amount, but E-rate covers majority of our telecommunications expense. This is our balance over the course of this contract.
What is this for?
New phone system.
Oh.
It's the telecommunications line and microfiber and comms, I mean, just there's a whole list of things, but I don't know what much of this is, but Tom says we need it. And so the total is $20,785.03, but our share is $62.35 and change.
What's the other share for, or is probably the other share?
E-rate.
Oh, E-rate is?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Oh, that's what.
the federal electronic rate reimbursement.
Okay.
So,
So what was it supposed to be spread out over time?
Well, it's not a one-time, it's through licensing fees and
Oh.
a variety of other things
Oh.
that just kind of are billed out throughout the process.
I'll make a motion to approve telecommunications cable and bill in the amount of $6,235.51.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded to, approve the telecommunications cabling bill in the amount of $6,235.51. Myself, yes. Wyatt?
yes.
Kate?
Yes.
Chance?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Justin?
Yes.
Motion carried 6-0. Discuss and take possible action on investing $100,000 in our flex CD.
So we've reimbursed, you know, 2 of the 400,000 that we borrowed several years ago. One of them was on a $100,000 CD to Brunswick State Bank. They had a very good rate at that time, last fall. And then this flex CD from last month, 6 weeks ago. Like the idea of a flex CD, you know, if we continue to grow that, there's a variety of ways, you know, and I've kind of put in here, I think, these funds could become part of a creative funding solution to a capital investment in facilities. So in talking to Mr. Christensen, superintendent at Laurel, how they restructured their funding for their bond election, because they floated the same amount, failed once, floated the same amount, and it passed, but they restructured how they were gonna pay for that. A lot of it was through lease purchase through the local bank, which was at a lower rate. So saved them some money. So for 7 years, they're gonna have a more significant expense, but when that drops off, their levy will come way down. They're using building fund money, right? So you can generate well over $1 million annually in your building fund that will probably be at some point in time part of your conversation about how to fund a scope of project. But this could also be used, some of your flex CD, let's say you've got $1 million or more maybe in flex CDs, you can use that for something in this process, whether it's furniture for a new building or new classrooms or a new commons area or whatever. So this is a way, just like depreciation funds could be a way, special building fund would be a way to have that support capital investment, flex CD, the flexibility of the money in and out. So, you know, I recommend, you know, all of your CD investment go into this flex.
Flex, what's the difference between flex and, I mean, the benefit of it, it's just, it's more liquid?
It is more liquid. You have a slightly lower interest rate, but the accessibility of those funds is what you get for that smaller rate.
This will just add to our current.
Yeah, we can
same
put it right
programs.
into the same one, so we can grow that same one, we don't have to start a new one.
The balance would be 200,000 then, correct?
We had $1 million, we're currently at 800.
Yep, I understand
Yeah.
that part, but this flex CD that you're adding to right now,
Yeah.
didn't we do that?
Correct, it would bring it to a $200,000 balance.
Yep, that's what I was asking.
Yeah. With just 100, but you can go 2, then you're up to that $1 million, kind of back to that threshold, which was our goal to, you know, reimburse all that back to $1 million. You know, so you just have a good opportunity here with our fund balance.
So we budgeted for 400,
Correct.
This would put us at.
This would be
half
3 of the
that,
4.
Half of our budget?
This would be 3 of the 4.
This would be 3 or 4, okay.
I'll make a motion to invest or transfer 100,000 from the general fund to our flex CD at Midwest Bank.
Moved and seconded to invest or transfer 100,000 from the general fund into flex CD at Midwest Bank. Myself, yes. Justin?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Chance?
Yep.
Katie?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried 6-0. Move on to reports, activity director's report.
Put state track competitors in there. I know they had a good state track meet, so you guys are aware of those guys and girls. I also put some info in there to get some feedback from you guys. With the paving of Lincoln Street, we're going to lose our shot put area, so we don't have any place to throw, so we're gonna have to move some stuff. So along with that, right now we practice on the baseball field, and if you've been by it, it looks like Field of Dreams, and when we get done with it, it looks like a K block after football. So I would really futuristically not like to have to tear up the baseball field every year and use it as a practice field. And with the paving of Lincoln Street, we wouldn't have to use the big green area as a parking lot anymore. But the problems with that is the middle of it is the lowest point, so water sits out there. So that's why I put on there to be able to bring in some dirt and raise it up and hopefully get a little bit of crown to it so we can have a little bit of runoff and keep water out of the middle and build a practice field and then double that as our discus throwing area, and then find a location that works best for shot put. So I just kinda put some ideas down there, just looking for your feedback. I know talking with Jeremy, the top left corner of where the circle drive is, he's gonna pull all that gravel out, and then the baseball backers wanna put a T-ball field up there. So there would be a little dirt area up there, but the outfield would still, it would be a big issue just because it is a T-ball field. You don't get a whole lot of outfield action, so. But my thought also with that is moving the red shed that's currently down there, so it's not right in the middle of what would be a practice area too. So we'd move some things around and try and get that a little bit more functional for some more activities. So, just wanted to give you a heads up what I was thinking. You guys can think about it, ask questions, whatever.
So to access the softball field, they're gonna park on Lincoln then, and then walk to.
When I talked to Jeremy, he wanted to do a west entrance, so it would be through the alfalfa field out there right now.
Okay.
So I think
Starting
that's
this
what's
fall.
planning with
Park out there.
baseball, right?
Yep.
For district baseball, they're gonna park out there?
If we get awarded a district, that would probably be an ideal spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But starting this fall for soccer, we're gonna have to
Yeah.
enter that whole complex from the west.
Okay. Yeah, cause July, they push back to Lincoln Street.
Yeah.
in July.
Yeah.
So the access we have on the east will just move to the west.
That's gonna,
Yeah.
that road will be curved, that road that goes up there now will not exist anymore.
Yep, that's what I figured.
So everyone coming into the baseball fields, soccer fields will come from the west side, that'll be where the parking is. Yeah, Kyle talked to me about, like soccer, we practice on the baseball fields, we're also tearing up the baseball fields, we could also practice or play our soccer games on that. Currently, everybody parks over there. And it's not ideal for track, for discus, and then for football and everything else, but, if we're not parking, there, we can utilize, that's just a lot of green space we can utilize.
Isn't that what we practiced when we were in school?
Yeah, we
Yes,
did, yeah.
We don't practice there anymore?
No, they practice on the baseball field mostly.
I see.
Well, now it's so, there's ruts and it's so tore up and it's.
This would be a good, pretty permanent solution. I mean, anybody that's an alum knows we practice football in about 3 or 4 different places down there. And this is good space, but it's horrible ground, for football practice. Because it's beat up from cars and it's beat up somewhat from discus and whatever, but, ideally, you crown this, you seed it, you sprinkle it, which could be a problem with the discus. Sure enough, it's gonna find a sprinkler head. But if you're gonna do this, you probably sprinkle it, otherwise, because you gotta have, the practice field has to have grass. And we can go with summer and we show up in the fall for football, and if it's a drought, just a conversation. Kyle's obviously been working on it a little bit, and this would be a fall project.
Yeah, if you end up going 11-man football in the near future, you won't be able to have 44 or 50 guys that would practice on a baseball field. Just won't. You need to have the space.
That's city-owned space, right?
Yeah.
Yes, city owns everything north of Lincoln.
Right, so what's the dynamic there with us making decisions on city-owned space?
I reckon it's just an ask.
Okay, sprinklers is fine, that'd be great, but we do have I watered soccer fields, there's a hydrant right there.
Yeah.
Gail let me use that old irrigation.
Yeah.
That auto reel one.
Yeah,
We
you can
do
drag
have-
it.
We do have an option there.
For sure, yeah, there is.
If sprinklers is gonna hold us up from doing something, we can get a large amount of volume out of that
Yeah.
thing.
Thing is, though, we wouldn't be able to drag it that first couple of months until you got a grass
Right.
stand.
Yeah.
So you'd be completely dependent on Mother Nature,
Yep.
until you got a stand.
When are you wanting this done?
Cause then they can practice.
I wouldn't do anything with it until this fall, so we can plant grass in the September, October range.
So it wouldn't, you do.
I wouldn't use it this year.
Okay.
Yeah,
For any
they'd have to
space.
stay off
Because
it this
the
fall.
paving project has to be done first.
Yeah.
Well, and
It
just if we're
doesn't
gonna
have
seed
to.
grass, they can't be on
Yeah.
it. If you
Right.
seed grass, do it in the fall, and they'd have to stay off it this year.
Yeah.
If we were your way, from using it, but maybe a September, October.
Right,
Yeah.
it might be
Dirt,
something you wanna
seed.
think about this year.
Yeah, which I just would expect that'll
You wanna see
Again.
grass in the fall anyway.
Yeah.
take some dirt work.
So they need to stay out.
When's the Lincoln project done then?
It's supposed to be done by the end of August.
Oh, this, okay.
So it'd be like in
So that won't mess
September.
with, that won't mess with any current
I
use of
was
that area.
thinking, yeah, but it is.
Maybe October.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
That's true.
supposed to
That
be,
would
which
mess with any
means,
current
thank
use
you.
of that area then.
No.
After that time we start.
And the main thing would be, we would then be parking on the west, so it'd hopefully just keep people out of there in general. for
But
this
you'd be able
fall.
to park on the west end.
Yeah, yeah, and just keep people back out of there for this fall.
We'll certainly have to have a conversation with the city.
Yep.
Make sure we're good there. Is there anything you need from us then, or is this just an FYI or?
No, it's just,
Put it on your radar.
yeah.
Okay.
So that way you can start talking about it or give me ideas, cause at a bare minimum, we have to do something with throws, cause we will not have any shot put area. And when I look at it, you know, we approved the Osmond Junior High Co-op with projections, we'll have 58 junior high kids, so we need more than one shot put rink, which is what we have now. So I was gonna go a little bit bigger and I'll have some more ideas with you, or for you about that, but wanted you to be aware of it so you can start thinking about it.
Somewhere to get some dirt. Yeah.
Jeremy did say
Well-
that they're gonna start cell 3 out at the dump, and so we would have some access to dirt there. It's just a matter of getting it here.
Tom
So-
Barnes has some dirt, you know, but it might smell like.
It'd be good for growing grass, wouldn't it?
I don't.
To me, that's the biggest thing, is really gonna get the dirt, get that in there. Everything else. is-
City dig.
Let's just put a turf field in at the football field and be done with it. Practice on
Make
the
it-
field.
Chance said it, let's do
Make
it.
a motion, Chance.
We'll practice on it, we'll do all of it.
Yeah.
Alright,
Bottom of the priority list.
Well, I don't wanna get too far in the weeds here, but honestly, if this is what if it is a $500,000 project though, putting in a practice field? It probably wouldn't be a bad idea to look at a turf field
Yeah. I
inside
agree,
the
that's
track.
like a forever deal. Already,
So,
no water, not to worry about pumping water.
it's not that far off of being a bad idea at all, it's really not, so, anyway.
Cause I
good.
can get all numbers put together and just give you as much as I can find.
Right.
So, that's, you guys will make the choice when it comes down to it, but I can give you whatever you want, so.
So I guess start putting some numbers together on what this will take, get it
Yep.
right.
I'll start working on it.
Yeah.
You already started working.
Yeah, I haven't put any numbers with it though, so.
So bringing in dirt's not gonna be cheap.
No, it's
That's-
not.
That's expensive.
I'm getting greater and everything. Yep. Everything.
alright, well, move on to principal's report.
We really don't have too much to share. Summer school is in full swing for both of us and going well. You invested in the Power School Hub, so that's something that Kyle and I will be working with our secretaries to digitalize all of our forms. So that's all in the works too.
How many kids do you have in summer school this year?
I have 29 in our building.
I got 17 and 6 of mine are done so far. Wait, we got another one finished today, 7 of mine are done.
You
So.
see, in the high school, as soon as they get done with their 8-packs,
Yep.
they're free to go.
Well,
Elementary is Monday to Thursday for 4 weeks. Solid. So, different approaches for different needs, obviously, so.
I should say mine's 6-12.
Yeah, we did
Yep.
at 6th grade this year.
Graders came over and joined.
The Power School, so that's something new, so I guess what do we, coming in next year, can you just give a brief, what are parents gonna see or the?
So when you do orientation and you come in the fall, we're gonna collaborate and do it together, I believe is what we had talked about. And so instead of filling out demographic forms and update forms and all that, that's all gonna be pushed out to you electronically. And then when you fill it out, it comes back in and automatically implements into our school system, so our secretaries don't have to do that. So part of our orientation is going to be onboarding with all of our parents and everything that are there that night, and kind of going through it, what it looks like, how to use it, and kind of show you some of the features and things you can do with it, and kind of making you aware that there is a back and forth messaging between teachers and parents and things like that, so.
You'll be able to demo that for the board in August,
Yep.
right?
Yep. We can do that.
So will that be like a QR code at registration that you go in and you scan it and do paperwork, or how are you guaranteeing that they'll do paperwork?
It's all done through an app, so probably we'll either have it up, how to download the app, or a QR code to take you straight to downloading it and getting you up to date with it.
Okay.
Will we provide a digital device maybe for parents at orientation? So over here, if you don't wanna use your phone, we've got 12 laptops over here. Is that potentially useful? I mean, would some parents prefer that maybe to? I know I would rather
I would
use my
say
laptop
95% of our parents do it all on their phones, so.
Yeah.
And the elementary had a small discussion at the end of the year about me even doing digital display of what orientation would look like for families, rather than bringing them all in like we did last year. We just felt that there were some things that we needed to change with it. And for elementary families, it will be a big adjustment because everything's always been paper, pencil, or paper copies. So just starting off right away, here's the place to go, here's where you're gonna have everything, kind of like Power School, but elementary families don't use it as religiously as junior high and high school parents do. So that might be one way that we approach it, jumping in full board in August.
Okay, thanks. President's report is next meeting the 23rd then, 7 o'clock, okay?
Yes.
Everybody? Michael works for baseball for adults.
Is that Monday?
Sorry.
23rd.
It is.
For me, it's fine.
At 7?
And it wouldn't be the whole board.
Isn't,
Right.
this is,
Oh, that's on our special.
isn't this when's our facility?
Unless, yes, I mean, it doesn't have to be, I guess, I'm sorry, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I think we talked about that earlier. That's entirely up to you if you want it to be a full board meeting, but which is, yes, it is the pattern of, fourth Monday.
Okay.
So, yeah,
If it
sorry,
is-
special.
If it is just 3 members, I do, I got a random, we'll just sort of, if you got, like
Yeah.
I said, Caden, Justin and I were at the last one, so
Yeah.
maybe the other 3 could go. to
Well,
something like that,
I'll
if
publish
that's
it. I'll publish it as a full board meeting then on the 23rd, special board meeting, but it'll be pretty much managed by Bob. But we'll have I'll work with Bob to put together an agenda and then consult with you.
Okay.
But it'd be maybe like a one item.
There won't be anything to do with the CM process yet, will there?
No,
Would that be?
I don't,
Does that start
well, I
immediately?
don't believe so. I'll let you know whether there might not be an actual action item to take a first step process in selecting your CM.
Most of those games are moving up the last 2 weeks.
So I don't have anything else, we'll meet the 23rd.
Our league tournament's on the 20th, 21st.
Superintendent's report.
Yeah, okay, so, new staff, we hired a food service, person. We lost, Gene Lewis has got some good, take care of family, so Gene has been terrific the past year, but, we need to find somebody else. LeVay's already had a gal in, did a little on-the-job training, so her name is Toni Miles, so she's new in food service. We've needed to hire, we let Christine Richter, was para for us in elementary, used the para pathway to earn a teaching certificate. And she got a job at Norfolk, so she'll be an elementary teacher at Norfolk, so we lost a para in the elementary. We hired Laura Alexander for that. And Mr. Schmidt is still considering a couple different options here at the high school. We've had a couple of good apps, we interviewed one. We've got another one that you should have on your desk. So we'll try to make that decision here for the high school. Potentially might have 2 in the high school that we have to hire, one for sure. Did apply for a grant, came across my desk that might help us both on either the new phone system or the School Guard app expense. So I'll let you know how that goes. That's a nationwide grant through the Community Oriented Policing Services School Violence Prevention Program. I'll connect with the members of the transportation committee. We'll need to meet with Bob prior to next meeting and maybe have an action item next meeting on the purchase of a bus route or activity van or bus or both. Dr. Bill Beckenhauer, Friday, still trying to arrange his boys to get over here and take care of the 1920 building. It's on their radar, very high on their radar, but he just hasn't deployed the boys to come and do it yet. They probably have bigger fish to fry, but you know, he knows we expect it to be done this summer, so I will stay on him. Our evac reunification drill went as good as it always has. There's our members of the Hall of Fame. We had the induction Saturday for that. We had all of those were present, minus Chad Schumacher. His will be in the fall at one of our wrestling events, I expect, where he'll be formally inducted. Plaques are on the wall, and also 05 football team, where we expect to have that at our first football game on the 29th of August, a 20-year reunion plus their formal induction. So those were really, really cool. The video link of that whole event will be uploaded here pretty soon. I'll push that out on social media, so if you're curious about that. Great acceptance speeches, great to hear from these folks. And one thing I realized after the fact is 4 out of 5 of our individuals are all school teachers. They became school teachers. That's awesome. The other became a cardiothoracic open heart surgeon, you know, which is pretty good too. But he's also a teacher, Dr. Joyce is. But at any rate, so that was really, really good. And that is all I have.
The chamber meeting is noon on Thursday. I'm going to attend. I don't expect any of you guys to attend. But now that Clown Days is behind them, I know they'll be planning for future stuff. Could you, whenever you have that schedule, like, is it on your radar to have another dual tournament here for wrestling again?
Mm-hmm.
Could we coordinate that with Hometown Holidays again?
Yep, it's the first Saturday in December.
Okay, so
I
that
don't know of any reason why we wouldn't welcome a very similar, if not the same event that seemed to work really well, that was planned really well.
And that went really well with the, what program was it, the backpack, the lunch?
Yeah, backpack program.
The backpack program, there
Yeah.
was, I think it was $3,000, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
I think we can talk again, that is funded really well. We don't have a deficit in that program, but
Okay,
at
can
any
you guys
rate.
start thinking, or can Jen start thinking of a
Yeah.
program, you're very creative with that, so that I can get that going. I had so much going on this spring, cause I will do all of those craft shows and everything. I was going to handle the FFA vendor show, and the FFA board kind of felt with everything that Chad Commit has going on in his personal life, and also taking on the farmer's market, they were gonna do less at the car show this year. And so we might do something this fall. I'm gonna continue working with the chamber and the board, the FFA board, because I'm not on the FFA board. But I will work with them and be in contact with you guys to have a fun ag-based event to raise money for that program. So just kind of put that stuff on your radar. I'm thinking September, October for the FFA, and then whatever you want the chamber, whatever program you want them to kind of fundraise for Hometown Holidays, be in contact with me so that I can be in contact with the chamber.
Very good. Yep.
So,
Thank you.
yep.
Okay, I think we're at the end of everything. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Have a great Monday morning. Thank you, everybody.
So that was why I called you the other day. If Rhonda still wants